Everybody needs goals, Carlos.
I know, I'm taking it one at a time.
There's a good old Dr. Dahl. Okay, I'm going. It's 5:30 p.m. and I now call to order the Grand Island Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the July 18th, 2022 meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Grand Island Independent, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance of the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it in to us so that you may be recognized during the request to address the board part of our meeting. If you have not already completed the form, please see the staff person outside the entrance to this room. Public comment is welcome. We do ask that no signs be brought into the boardroom. Mrs. Dibbert, please call roll.
Mrs. Albers?
Present.
Mr. Barsonis?
Present.
Mrs. Hinkle?
Present.
Mr. Hawley? Here. Mrs. Juergens? Present. Dr. Brose? Here. Ms. Wolf? Yes. Mr. Brown? Present. Mr. Helinski?
Present.
Ms. Wolf, please read the mission statement.
Every student, every day, a success. In educating students, we teach hearts as well as minds. Student commitments. Within the school district of Grand Island, every student has access to high-quality, culturally responsive, and engaging learning environments. Every student will develop literacy skills across disciplines. Every student is socially and emotionally equipped to thrive in school and in life. Every student will graduate as a college, career, and community-ready citizen.
Thank you. The first item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda to be approved is as follows. 4.1, minutes from the previous month's meetings. 4.2, acceptance of agendas from standing committees. 4.3, claims as submitted. 4.4, bid proposals as submitted. 4.5, staff adjustments as submitted. 4.6, treasurer's report as submitted. 4.7, contracts. 4.7.1, contract between Grand Island Public Schools and Amy Gamboy. Anybody help me with that? Gamboyan? The table group. 4.7.2, Grand Island Public Schools Fresh Service 3-year agreement. 4.7.3, Grand Island Public Schools App Stream 2.0. 4.7.4, Grand Island Public Schools Bark Plus 3-year. 4.8 policy. 4.8.1, 8720, grading and reporting on final read. 4.9, approval of agenda as submitted. This is the consent agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the consent agenda? Does anyone have a potential conflict of interest on agenda item 4.3? If so, please state the check number that you will be abstaining from voting on. Mr. Barsonis?
I will abstain from voting on check number 83462 and approve the rest. Submit it.
Mrs. Juergens?
I'll be abstaining from check number 83462 and approving the rest.
Ms. Wolf?
I will be abstaining from check number 83462 and approve all other consent agenda items.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Make a recommendation to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Mr. Barsonis and Mrs. Hinkle? Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. Oh, no. 5 is special recognition. I'm getting there. 5.1, 2022 High School Principal of the Year, our own Mr. Gilbertson.
Yes.
Thank
Good
you, Ms.
evening, President Albers, Dr. Grover, and board members. Every year, the Nebraska State Association of Secondary School Principals asks for nominations of principals that have demonstrated outstanding leadership in their school, their region, and at the state level. The award is based on demonstration of personal excellence, collaborative leadership, curriculum, instruction, assessment, and personalization. It is my privilege and pleasure tonight to recognize and introduce Mr. Jeff Gilbertson, Executive Principal of Grand Island Senior High, as this year's Nebraska State Association of Secondary School Principals High School Principal of the Year. Of course, I couldn't let it go at just that. I do have just a few words to say before we get to the big important part, the pictures.
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbertson and I started our leadership journey together as elementary principals 21 years ago. We were both young and internally motivated to learn and make a difference through leadership. We attended several conferences together, have shared many stories and memories, some that he still enjoys telling today. What I know about Mr. Gilbertson in all the years that he has served in the different positions is he's never wavered on his purpose, his commitment, and his loyalty to public education and to GIPS students. He understands the responsibility of his role and is always striving to learn and grow with the students that are always at the forefront. This is evidenced by the countless hours he dedicates, the relationships that he builds, and the authentic way he advocates and responds to adversity. This servant leadership could not have been done without support. Thank you to his family that has supported and continues to support him in his role. I know that Mindy, Jack, and Hannah are all probably watching virtually, and just want to say thank you. It's a huge commitment from the family. Mr. Gilbertson also has a strong faith. He has an amazing family and very close friends. His leadership and connectedness go far beyond his role as the executive principal. The journey from teacher to elementary principal, middle school principal, director of secondary education, and then executive principal at Grand Island Senior High shows us how committed and dedicated he is to Grand Island Public Schools. He has accepted the opportunities and responded to the calling of leadership needed at the time. There are not many people that we can say that have served as he has. There are even fewer that can say they have led through school transformation. Our students are the beneficiaries of the transformation, and you'll hear Mr. Gilbertson say, "We are not done yet. We still have work to do." It is no secret that the pandemic has disrupted our progress, not just here, but across the world. And in recent conversations with Mr. Gilbertson, he shared that we cannot use this as an excuse. We have to get focused. We have to be intentional. We have to believe in our students and our educators and connect with our community and inspire others through our leadership. He believes in Grand Island Public Schools and that our students need us to unify. You might think that after such a long career in education and with the challenges that we face today, that the passion and dedication might waver. That is not what I see in Mr. Gilbertson. He continues to be as passionate and genuinely committed as when we first met 21 years ago. And when he tells stories about our students overcoming adversity beyond what they thought possible, he may even tear up with a little bit of pride, and that really drives home our purpose. I'm proud to recognize him as the Secondary Principal of the Year and that he will be representing Nebraska at the National Principals Conference in October. We stand behind you. Congratulations. You may say a few words. By the way, it's published. It's all yours.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Palmer. By the way, we are still young. I just so much appreciate your words and the opportunity to address the board tonight, Madam President, Dr. Tawana Grover. One of my mentors said to me long ago when I was thinking about getting into education, happened to be a university professor at the University of Nebraska. He said, just remember two things before you get into education. You don't do anything, you don't make decisions for recognition. And those students that you will teach can tell a phony a mile away. And I've lived with that at the forefront of my beliefs and values my whole career. This recognition is nice. Don't get me wrong. amazing to be recognized by your peers in the state of Nebraska and to be nominated. But it's the people of Grand Island, the team that we have, that I'm most excited about representing. The admin team at Grand Island Senior High, the teachers, the amazing staff, district-wide, the incredible district administrators, all of you sitting here tonight. It's just an honor, and I'm humbled to represent the purple and gold moving forward. And that being said, and Dr. Palmer nailed it, there is so much work to do. That's the exciting part. One of the main reasons I made the shift, when Dr. Joel hired me 21 years ago, I was a teacher in Lincoln Public Schools and made the decision to come to Grand Island Public Schools and Grand Island to raise my children, and it's because of the people. And I felt that at Hello when I interviewed. Wayne Stelk helped me see that when I piled into his pickup and we took a tour of this great community. And so with that, I believe in this community, and I believe in our ability to resolve, to solve problems, and to put the number one focus on the students of Grand Island Public Schools. And I thank you for that very much. So that's it. Thank you.
Do you guys want to take a picture?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to stand up there as well? Okay, I'm going to take two different formats. I'm not sure what the team likes best. All right, here's one of them. And then we'll do this as well, get the background. All right, thank you.
To address the board, okay. Moving on, congratulations, Mr. G. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Request to address the board, we do not have any, so we can skip through 6, 7. No need to reconvene. Information items, 9.1, proposal for secondary pass program. Mr. Bishop?
Good evening. I'm here to talk about the Secondary Pass program on behalf of Dr. Dexter. As a secondary admin team, they identified a need for a transition program for students experiencing dysregulated behaviors on a continual basis in classrooms, activities before and after school interactions. These students do not qualify for Success, OMB, or skills programs and have the need, or do not have the need for special education, may qualify and may have the need for English language learner support. This supports our strategic plan 3.1, every student has a personalized environment for learning. This program supports all students by supporting the students that are dysregulated, but also by supporting our students in the general ed classroom, maintaining the learning environment. Our proposed action tonight is to implement a secondary school transition program, PASS, Positive Alternative to Suspension Support, at each of the 4 secondary campuses. This program would be the first placement in a Tier 2 short-term or Tier 3 support program with clear entrance and exit criteria. Building administrators have reported success with similar programs across the state. Students will be assigned to the PASS program by an MTSS team with an individualized learning program. Students would be monitored consistently on an hourly, daily, and weekly basis for success, and at a 6-week or less interval for for transitioning back to the general education learning environment or for continued success or support. The individual learning plan will include specific behavior, mental health, and academic sports, including preparation for re-entry to the Tier 1 general school environment. The program will be able to support 15 to 18 students at each of the 4 campuses when at full capacity. Staffing impact would be 1 certified teacher and 2 classified paras at each site. Decision rules for entry and exit will be developed by the secondary alternative education team. We will be using Edmentum courses as well as Google Classroom to support instruction at the curriculum, and we'll also provide additional support in social, emotional, and behavioral health by Second Step and Rage to Region, and additional resources identified by the support team. The data research that we used, looking at students with continual dysregulated behavior based on synergy data referrals and not achieving academically or socially, ending up as a referral to in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension, threat assessments, homebound services, and students with continual dysregulated behavior that disrupt the learning environment in the classroom. Alternatives to this program include off-site locations, increase the number of students at OMB, or leave students in the general ed classrooms with in-class supports at their neighborhood schools. This program is modeled after the transition program at OPS. Mr. Wickman was able to share strengths, as well as Dr. DeFrank and Mr. Covarrubias. Canvas and Synergy will be used for data collection, monitoring, and analysis. And then positive behavior support research was used from the EAB. Equity analysis, students of color, special education, and low socioeconomic status are referred to OSS, homebound, and or OMB at a higher rate and disproportionality than other students. Stakeholder groups that we had involved were parents that expressed concerns for lack of discipline intervention. Parents have expressed the need for more educational support, and teachers have shared the need for support of significantly disruptive students in the general ed classroom. The secondary school alternative education team was Mr. Hubbard, Dr. DeFrank, Mr. Wolf, Ms. Wickman, Mr. Foley, Mr. Covarrubias, Dr. Dexter, and myself, Rob Bishop. In summary, the secondary school alternative ed team was tasked with designing a program to serve more students in need of behavioral and mental health academic support across the outcomes for our students, and to decrease the use of exclusionary practices, out-of-school suspension, and in-school suspension, while still giving students the support that they need. The fiscal impact, curriculum, resources, and professional development, $7,000 annually. Staff, gen ed staff, $324,700. 8 paraprofessionals, so there'd be 1 certified teacher and 2 paraprofessionals at each of the site, for a total of 8 paraprofessionals, which is 5 new positions added to the current 3 that we have. Facilities, we would use existing equipment and classrooms for a total impact of $497,316. People responsible for implementation would be Dr. Dexter and myself. Actions, we'll be looking at referral and recidivization data. A timeline, we'd like to get this in place as staffing allows and revisit at 12-week intervals at the building level. And this would report to board committee L for L for follow-up, and then annually to the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Are you done?
I'm done.
Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Wolf?
Hello, Mr. Bishop. How are you today?
I'm good.
It's your first time
Yes.
coming to present to us, so thank you. I appreciate that. I just have a quick question, because we do something very similar at the elementary level, if I remember correctly, and I've been able to view the re-entry into the general classroom. And I just think when we're in that secondary level, how are we going to ensure it's not a vacation for the student? Because maybe they just really don't like their English instructor, and so they like to, really act out. Is there a certain amount of times that they have to act out? Or I know you said there's still some things that need to be developed. I just want to make sure that we're not providing a vacation as well.
Right, exactly, and thank you for bringing that up. This would not be the first stop, nor would it be the first alternative to an in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension. Our teams would engage in some of the problem-solving logic around that team-based at the middle level and the secondary teachers to identify, is this generally across all settings where we need to support very intentional social skills and behavioral health skills for that student to be successful, or is it just one environment and we can make adjustments there? The data that we would be looking at would be multiple referrals for in-school and out-of-school suspension, absenteeism, the suicide screeners. All of that information will kind of come together to be that big picture for the alternative education team to make the best decisions possible. This program is not designed to This is not designed to be a permanent placement or a life sentence. This is designed to be an opportunity for us to teach and support those students and have opportunities for the classroom teachers to come in, rebuild the relationships, come up with a plan so that student can be successful when we transition them back to the general education program.
Mr. Helinski?
Probably gonna steal Dr. Burrows' here. I got 3 questions. You answered one with Erica. Where's the money coming from to pay for this program? That's one. Number 2, is this something that we can broaden to possibly do something with elementary as well later down the line? Obviously, we have to start somewhere. But behavioral issues just aren't just behavioral issues at junior high, or excuse me, middle school, sorry, showing my age. Middle school and high school, obviously. And there's some things in place in the elementary schools, but if this is the direction we're going, is there a possibility that this is going to be broadened into the elementary school spectrum as well to help those teachers?
Excellent. And yes, this is the starting out the program and really working out what it will take to implement a successful program and defining that clear entrance and exit criteria for student success. I know of a few programs like this that operate at the elementary level to get guidance from, but I think we can learn the systematic lessons needed at the secondary level and then identify if at the secondary level and then identify if there's a need and support at the elementary level. And as a former elementary principal, I understand that, so thank you.
And as far as the funding for the program, where's that coming from?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
That it would be the responsibility of the general fund.
Appreciate that.
It sounded better coming from the CFO.
Dr. Burrows?
Not so fast, Dr. Schroeder. So is there room in our current budget to find almost $500,000 for this to be supported?
We continue to work as a cabinet to maximize our FTEs and to run as lean as possible. We did some work with that at the elementary level this year with the help of Mr. Gearhart and Mr. Dahl and Miss Iree. And then each year through attrition, right? New staff is generally cheaper than existing staff. And I'll have the answer for you here in another couple weeks after I get all these staff adjustments done and get the budget done. But yeah, at this point, I think it's sustainable.
And then I have a second question, and this is for Mr. Bishop. Can you help me understand, you said we're going to evaluate its effectiveness looking at referrals and recidivism rates. But what's that look like? How do we know that what we're doing is going to be better than what we have done in the past? And I know that's my perennial question, but how do we know? How will we know?
Well, we will, thank you for asking that question because we're going to look at the data in two different steps. So there will be data that we will look at that determines the exit from this more individualized program. They are ready, their attendance has met the mark, they've met their daily goals for being respectful, responsible, safe, or compliance within the program, and then the data that we will continue to monitor. I imagine that student won't go from this program just back to the classroom, but they'll be in more of a tier 2 intervention, and they will have that fading process. So similarly, we will be implementing the Are You Being Respectful, Responsible, Safe, the feedback, monitoring that data, as well as attendance, behavior referrals, in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension data. That data will determine what the threshold is, because sometimes we graduate students from intervention and they were doing great in the intervention, we fade them back, and then something may happen at school or something may happen outside of school that kind of engages the human nature of dysregulation, and we have to provide that support again. So we will be continually looking at that data and monitoring the students' performance on, are they being successful in this less restrictive environment? Which of course is what we want, but that doesn't mean that some students don't at times need additional layers of support.
Mrs. Hinkle?
Thank you. And you may not be able to answer all these questions, so look to maybe you, Dr. Grover. So I know we talked about this in L4L and for finance and facilities, and I think it was just those two. But anyway, I know in finance and facility, our discussion kind of centered around, it is expensive, but that's because it includes staff cost, and anytime you have personnel involved, it's going to cost quite a bit. But I was thinking that we said in finance and facility, they were maybe going to try to see if there was a way to do it less expensively. I don't know if you were able to do that, or what, I don't know, if you have any more on that. So
I think Dr. Schroeder did send you a follow-up email to that conversation, and Dr. Dexter did do a pretty good job of projecting out. So I think her cost that she presented forward was pretty well spot on the money as we go. One of the other things we did talk about too as we move forward, because definitely this is a program, as we talked about, to help kind of alleviate some of the strain on our regular classroom teachers when they need students to be able to demonstrate, certain levels of behavior so that we're not being disruptive to other students in the classroom. That we will continue to look for grant opportunities. I think we always do that, as we sustain, but of course, we don't want to go into debt or incur costs without having a plan. And I think through all the work, the repurposing, and that's what we've always wanted to do, right? We want to drive our resources toward our strategic plan objectives, and I think that's what's happening here as we kind of work through the budget process.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Schroeder?
The other thing we did talk about in F&F was trying to phase the program in incrementally.
Right.
The other cost consideration and logistical consideration was the fact that because of the timing of the approval, we may not be able to fully staff it, so the fiscal impact may be muted somewhat this first year.
Yeah. And that's a good segue, because then my second question was, I know we haven't officially approved it yet, so do you have a sense for whether or not we will be able to staff it? And if not, then what is the plan if we're not able to fully staff it in all 4 locations?
The plan at the last meeting with the secondary administrators was to staff it as we are ready, and we've already identified some people within our district that have the skill set and experience with implementing similar programs and similar levels of support. And then as we're able to onboard new staff, then work to expand. So I know we have 2 buildings that thought they could make it work for this first year. The other 2 buildings are kind of in a holding pattern to see what staff and resources may be available.
Mr. Hawley?
You had said there was 18 spots at 4 different locations, so 72. Is there data that tells us that drove it to that number, or is it based off the FTE that we can use based on personnel? And then going forward too, I know you talked about the reassessing of it. Are we reassessing students to see if long-term students who've been in the program, if they need to be moved out and that they qualify for skills now or for success or something after they've been in this program?
So the 15 to 18 number did come based on what we thought we could support with staff, based on some of the guidelines within the skills program and the success program on what it takes to support students with significant needs. When it comes to that data decision rules on whether we're having a positive response, let's go back to the general education classroom with additional support, or we're still having a poor response in this program, it's time to move forward with the multidisciplinary team and work together in that team-based decision on if we're going to make a skills referral or a special education referral. So that process would be very similar, but we'll be looking at that student outcome data. We try to look at it at least bi-weekly. Positive response, what can we fade and teach them? Questionable response, we look at what's been going on. That poor response, that's kind of our red flag. Okay, this is not working. Can we intensify, or do we need another setting? And that's what those team members would work to determine.
Mrs. Jurgens.
Mr. Bishop, for your first time addressing the board, you are really on the hot seat, so I apologize. But your information has been tremendously helpful, so thank you to the MTSS team, including yourself, for putting this together. I'm personally really excited about this. I think this is going to be great for GIPS. I am curious about what we will be asking of parents and guardians in terms of that home support throughout this process, specifically once our students move into that less regulated phase. Can you just talk a little bit about that as opposed to what has happened before? Thank you.
Right. So in that home support is so critical, and it needs to be two-way communication, both from the school. Hey, this is what we're working on. We had a great day. We struggled today with this, but also that home communication from the parents to the building. Hey, we've had this change in our household, or this is going on, or this has changed to help us fully support the students. We would want the parents as involved as we can, not only with that two-way communication, but that I imagine that at those 6-week increments or sooner, depending on the student data, there would be parent meetings. Hey, we're seeing this, or we're struggling with this. What can we do? Do we need additional wraparound support? Are there ways that you can support us? And just that open dialogue and communication.
Dr. Dan?
Thank you. Just one more. You talked about couple of the buildings maybe had staff. Would you tell me what this staff member looks like, the certificated staff member? I'm curious to know what the skill set is, but more importantly, what's the prep?
The person that I'm aware of, and I'm not aware of both, but the person that I'm aware of had training at Boys Town as a teacher in the Boys Town program, and so has taught in the kind of a level 4 type placement in the past.
Mr. Barsonas.
Thank you, and I know we've looked at all this for a while, and two questions. So you're talking about Tier 1 and Tier 3 students. Could you define what is a Tier 1 and Tier 2, or Tier 2 and Tier 3 quick, and then I'll ask my second question.
Okay. So in MTSS, when our systems are functioning well, about 80% of our students should be successful as defined by having 0 to 1 major office discipline referrals. We don't expect any kids to be perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, but they're kind of at that 0 to 1. At the Tier 2 level, we would expect 5 to 15% of our students to need an additional layer of support. Not necessarily individualized support, but an additional layer. It might be a group intervention like check in, check out, or breaks are better, or social skills, or a group with the counselor. The Tier 3 level are students that were not successful at Tier 1, we're in Tier 2, still not successful with that level of support, and now need that third level of support, very individualized, and that typically serves 1 to 5% of our students. The reason why those percentages are important is because we work to be efficient and effective, and That may mean at some buildings, our tier 1 practices need to be a lot more intense because we will never have enough resources to serve more than 20% of our students at that tier 2 and tier 3 level of need. So the tiers look a little bit different. The level of support, it's kind of everybody gets tier 1, some get tier 2, some get tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 is the level of support that they need to be successful. Often, as schools identify that they need an MTSS system, it is because we have students that struggle, but we don't have the tier 2 built and developed, so everybody gets individualized support, which really causes our resources to not be enough to support those students. So that's a crash course in MTSS.
And I think that goes to, it's such a complicated and complex conversation, right? So thank you, because I know there is the administration input, the teacher input, the parent input, and when we're talking about students that are, many times as adults, are we trying to deal with so many other things? You know, I had a couple parents ask me and concerned of, well, I don't want you to get rid of my kids. Like, we're not getting rid of our kids. We're trying to figure out how best meet the needs of what they're going through. So I like the layered approach, and I like that it's back and forth of what's working, what's not working. So thank you for all the time that you guys have put into this, and we will look forward to seeing it.
Anybody else? Mr. Helinski?
Sorry, like a bad penny, keep popping up. Why are we starting at middle school and high school? Why aren't we starting all the way back at the beginning in the elementary schools to, obviously we have the behavior issue all the way through. If you have a behavioral issue with the child, it's pretty much going to be a long while until we can figure out how to correct that and make them the best person possible. Why are we not starting them at an early age with this and going more towards elementary, working it up through middle school and high school?
You know, I would say it has been a little bit more of a defined need at the secondary level when it comes to the dysregulation observed in the classroom and the capacity of the buildings to serve those students. Our elementary buildings typically have, and I'll use Kinnickram as an example, it's a building of 210 students. We have one social worker 4 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week, depending. At the middle level, you have many more students. You have one social worker 5 days a week. There's just not the same level of expertise and support. And the dysregulation of secondary students seems to be, I'm not going to say more intense on the physical side, but it takes longer to teach the new habits and the skill sets for those students to be successful. They've had more time engaging in we'll call it unexpected or inappropriate behaviors, and that has become the habit, and it takes longer to reteach those skills than it does with a student that we just identified. They've only been engaging in this behavior for a week or 2 weeks. It's easier to shape that behavior than it is for some of our students, especially at the secondary level. Our students tend to internalize more than externalize, so they more shut down or don't tell us or are looking for, last time I was in this class and I needed to escape, I told the teacher to, not a very nice word, I got sent to the office, I got to escape. Now the teacher got smart, they're ignoring me, I really want to get out of this class, I'm going to up my game a little bit. I'm going to see what does it take for me to gain that release. So there is a lot of retraining and then consistency that it takes to help shape that behavior.
Okay. And then maybe this is more of a question for Dr. Schroeder, and I'm just trying to understand all this. We have a limited number of FTEs because of the budget, correct? We can't go over budget on employment, is what I'm trying to say, actually. Are we going to be pulling resources from the elementary sector to fund this program, and in the long term, maybe hurting that side of it before they even get to the program, causing more issues? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I understand what you're trying to say, and I think a fair way to say it is staff cost determine the number of FTE. So we have so many seats on the bus in our current staffing configuration. So when we take those FTE times their value, salary and benefit costs, we determine a total staff cost for that individual, and then in sum for the budget. And so we want to maintain that budget number by those things that I mentioned to Dr. Brose before, right? We have attrition, so new staff costs less. Like Dr. Grover said, we try to maximize our FTEs, so we're looking at those, the work of DMG and the student to teacher ratio to trim that up and make that as fruitful as possible. It's through those means that we try to recapture enough funding so that we don't have to take away money from other programming that exists. And I believe that we can do that going forward. The other factors that play into this is we'll get our valuation on or before August 20th, so we know what our tax base increase is going to be. Last year, as we discussed in F&F, we had an increase in state aid, a substantial increase in state aid. So those are your two biggest revenue streams. And we always expect our budget to grow due to inflationary costs, standard of living, cost of living increase. And so there's a lot of moving parts. But yeah, I think we can do that without detracting from the current services and programming that we're providing.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, one more question for Mr. Bishop. Do you know the data on people who have, or students who have done this program? Are they, quote unquote, graduating from the program in the first, what's the difference between tier 1 students and tier 3 students, I guess, as far as when they're getting out of the program?
So for this particular program, I would have to reach out to some of the other districts that are implementing to get their response data specifically, if they're willing to share it. As far as an observation data from when I was a principal supporting students at the tier 2 level, generally 65 to 75% of the students are successful at that level of support, leaving 2 or 3 or 4 additional students that need that more intensive level of support, helping us with our efficiency. And I did want to add the other data point that shows us, that kind of wanted us to lead to that secondary, was just looking at in-school and out-of-school suspension numbers across the campuses. And so it was a higher need, of course, with more in-school and out-of-school suspensions at the secondary level than the elementary level. Not that this program couldn't be adapted or successful, but I think if we want to start someplace, this would be a good investment to start.
Thank you for the questions, Mr. Holinsky. I just wanted to kind of add for the elementary perspective, because I think part of what we're hearing is, what are we doing to support at the elementary level and making sure we're addressing some of their needs? And so I just want to bring back to the board's attention for the elementary. Their priority this year was to be able to get their counselors back available. And so we were able to move the counselors out of the rotation special. And we added the 10 SECA coaches, the social, emotional, creative art specialists to the elementary, because they saw that as a priority. So Dr. Dexter spends an incredible amount of time working through this with the counselors and the social workers. And the other added piece, so you asked about what's next for elementary. So the team has been very proactive. Mr. Bishop mentioned the team that has been meeting, and that is exactly what came up, is what will it look like for alternative placements for elementary schools. So I just want to reassure you that it's already part of the conversation.
Mr. Bishop, if I may, because I haven't said anything, which is shocking. But first of all, thank you for your presentation. You did a great job. I was super excited to hear about this. I think this is a component that we've been talking about for months that is missing, that, some of these kids have, more trauma than other kids do. And I really think this is going to be able to support them in a way so we don't have to look at skills or success or OMB, who also they have such tight parameters to get, and limited number of spots to get kids into those particular spaces. So I about choked when I saw the price tag on this, but staff is expensive and it's necessary, and I'm really excited just to see the outcomes of this program, and look forward to your next presentation to give us an update. So well done tonight.
Thank you.
9.2, fuel purchase credit for Holiday Express transportation services.
Howdy, folks.
Dr. Schroeder, sorry about that, I didn't introduce you.
Fuel costs have soared to exorbitant levels since the time that the school district entered into a transportation service contract with Holiday Express. As a result, the Facilities and Finance Committee discussed providing a one-time credit to Holiday Express to help subsidize the increased fuel costs for school year 22-23 for regular student transportation routes. The Facilities and Finance Committee members would like to offer a credit back to Holiday Express in the amount of $46,945. In June of next year, the Facilities and Finance Committee will review fuel prices and the service contract with Holiday Express to see if any additional revisions to the service contract regarding a fuel price escalator and other information need to be brought to the board's attention for consideration. The total cost of that is broken up by the 3 fuel costs, and so the understanding is basically that the owner of Holiday Express can buy the fuel in bulk at a somewhat discounted price. And so that subsidy for each of the types of fuel, for diesel, we're talking about 4,000 gallons, and we're paying the difference between $3 and the market price that he can secure that for and store it at his facility. Unleaded gas, it would be anything above $2.85 to the current market price, and that would constitute $21,155 of that subsidy. And then finally, propane to the tune of $18,750, which is anything above $1.25 per gallon. And so when F&F, we looked at this over the course of 2 months, we thought about simply revising the contract and putting those fuel escalators in there, but then we sat back and we thought, well, we don't know what the market is going to do. Maybe it's going to calm down. And so we think, to be fair to the contracted service provider, namely Holiday Express, this is the best approach. We've worked with them cooperatively through the process. The other thing that I'll have you know is our 21-22 contract called for a daily rate for transportation services. And so any day below, any day that they did not transport, they owe us money back for that to the tune of approximately $9,000 a day. So we'd simply be letting them keep the value of that $46,000 that they've already received in payment, and then the remaining for the undelivered transportation services left would be delivered back to the district. So in other words, there won't be any check being actually written because they already have the money in hand. We'll just say you don't have to give that amount back to us. So from a budgetary perspective, it's a pretty good deal. Questions that I can answer for you regarding that? Everybody's feeling it at the pumps.
Mrs. Hinkle.
So, but gas prices have been going down for about a month now. So will that change this amount? Like, is this like the maximum amount we would give?
It's gonna be a one-time.
Okay, so it's not gonna change the
Yep.
base, okay.
Because he has the ability to store that fuel on site, and so he's gonna buy it on contract. He thinks that amount of fuel can get us through the next academic year. So it's a one-time credit, and then we'll sit down next May and June, see what fuel prices are doing, review the contract, take it back to F&F, and see where we go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Schroeder. 9.3, adding FTE to 2022-2023 school year. Ms. Irie.
Good evening, Dr. Grover and members of the board. At this time, this information is being brought for information, and then you will have an opportunity for action item later. We are requesting a full-time business manager for the finance department. Over the past year, the district has twice not had a full-time payroll administrator due to an employee leave and then due to a resignation. This has a crippling effect on the business office staff, as the business office has to shuffle personnel and responsibilities when the payroll administrator position is not filled. This situation also presents the opportunity for significant errors in the payroll process and in the potential for errors in other business office functions. The district should develop a contingency plan for this position and should have a staff member who can step up and assume the payroll administrator's responsibilities. This is part of that succession planning for the business office. The approximate base salary for this position is a range of $80,000 to $100,000, and it would be from the general fund, which has already been cleared by Dr. Schroeder. It's his position.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Mrs. Hinkle?
Just to share, I am in both personnel and finance and facility, and we talked about it at both of them. And it is such a critical role because it can, if there are errors made, it can have a much larger price tag to correct those. And it's important to our staff that they get paid appropriately. So definitely see the need for this, and hopefully we can find someone soon.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. GICSA Administration and Central Office Administration compensation for the 2022-2023 contract term. Dr. Schroeder?
Each year, the Facilities and Finance Committee and the Superintendent of Schools review and adjust compensation for the administration of Grand Island Public Schools in advance of the upcoming contract term. I'm proposing a total compensation increase for both Gicsa and central office staff administration in the form of 3%. Facilities and Finance got to preview and review the central office staff spreadsheet before the raises were applied. Tonight, when we go into executive session, I'll review with the board members and superintendent and HR the spreadsheets for those proposed compensation increases for both central office staff and for Gicsa. Are there any questions that I can answer for you right now?
Doesn't look like it. You staying up there for the next one?
I've got the next
9.5 classified staff compensation for the 2022-2023 school year.
Okay. Each year, the Facilities and Finance Committee and the Superintendent of Schools review and adjust compensation for classified staff of Grand Island Public Schools in advance of the upcoming contract term. The proposed total compensation increase for the classified staff is 3.2%. And again, in executive session this evening, I'll review those calculations and that proposal to you. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you right now?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
9.6, Senior Construction House Realtor requests for qualifications. Dr. Schroeder?
Okay. Mr. Dan Phillips and I have been working on this. Grand Island Public Schools was approached by a local realtor about a partnership that would result in the seller's commission for the senior construction house being donated back to the Grand Island Public Schools Education Foundation to start a scholarship for students pursuing construction-related post-secondary programs. This RFQ allows all realtors in the Grand Island area to submit a proposal to be the qualified realtor for the sale of the senior construction home for a 5-year period. And I've attached a draft of that RFQ for your review. The tentative timeline would be, if we march forward with it, we would like to get that advertisement for RFQs out, and then Mr. Phillips has already reached out to the Grand Island Board of Realtors. He'll communicate the opportunity and the RFQ to that board and their membership so that everybody's aware of the opportunity, and then we would bring that back for our next regularly scheduled Facilities and Finance Committee meeting. The dollar threshold annually that we're talking about isn't something that we'd be overly concerned with from a F&F perspective, but due to the fact that it is a 5-year commitment between the realtor
and the school district. Remember, it's $35,000 or any contractor engagement lasting 2 or more years. We'd want to have F&F review that after Mr. Phillips and I got back the proposals, scored them, and made our recommendation to that committee. Do you have any questions I can answer for you about the RFQ right now?
Mr. Barsness?
No, I think we just, as a reminder, as we saw it in committee, we asked our questions. Thank you for that. 'Cause I don't know if there's anything else that we just went back and forth. I know you guys have been working really hard on that communication. Looking forward to it.
And then how will realtors be able to see the request for qualifications? Do you,
How will what?
oh my gosh, you can't hear me? That never happens to me.
I'm old.
How will how will realtors be able to find the parameters that they need to follow to be able to submit this request?
Sure. We're going to put that out through the Realtors Association, and then we're also going to advertise that.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Nine point seven, Tango Flight MOU. I just like saying that, Tango Flight. Mr. Wickman?
Good evening. The Tango Flight is, I apologize. The Tango Flight MOU, this is an opportunity for us to collaborate with a curriculum provider around the building of the VANS RB-12 aircraft. So as part of the Academy of Engineering Technology Aviation program, we have been working on building a VANS RB-12 that hopefully we'll be able to sell here in another year or two. One of the challenges with that are continued updates to that piece of equipment and changes in the plan. And this is an opportunity to collaborate with a partner that has experience building them for years. So Tango Flight it's an organization that has grown from supporting schools in Texas for the last decade or so, building VANS RB-12 aircraft. One of the big pieces is, in addition to the support of the staff members, actually then the sale of the aircraft at the end. So transferring that from a process that we have to manage as a school district, learning how to sell an aircraft, to Tango Flight will be a big advantage. So with the curriculum support, being able to make sure the teachers have the skills and talents and understand all of the intricacies of building a VANS RB-12, then couple that with the support. So if unfortunately I'm here for Dan tonight, but I believe this also, they are going to take over the insurance of this. So that is an expense that we'll recover back in the academy as well.
Thank you. Mr. Barsness?
I just want to say this has been really exciting from the moment we started thinking about it, and I have a friend who shares all the time. Her kiddos already fly in, and it's very, very exciting. So I'm just glad that we were able to offer it, and it's an exciting program.
Mr. Brown?
We've been talking about this in facility finance for quite some time, really about the insurance and just getting this program off the ground, so to speak, has been a lot of work. I mean, and what's nice about this company is that they've been doing this. They've been helping school districts get through this process. So, you know, for us, we've never sold a plane before. So now we're, getting involved with someone who has sold many planes. And also the curriculum is, like I said, that's a huge boost for us. So we're doing the right thing. We had the right plane to begin with. That was great. But now we have the program to match it up. Just supplements this program. It's so exciting, and also taking the headache away from the district of trying to sell planes. That's not our business. So yeah, it's a process. And the insurance was a nightmare to begin with. Now it's going to be much better. So great find here. This is awesome to be able to hook in with a business that does this on their own.
Yeah, the other aspect, in addition to the curriculum and the certification, it's the certifying the airworthiness of it. So one of the big challenges is I've never been through an airworthiness certification, so as a principal, that's a real challenge. And so having some folks that can mentor us through all of that process and the necessary documentation, instead of us trying to build it from the ground up, we're actually going to be able to jump in and do it. So really excited about the opportunity to support the staff members so they can spend more time working with kids and less time worrying about how to manage it.
Right. I support that. Thanks.
Mr. Helinski?
Just echoing what's already been said, I think this program is so cool. I don't know how to sell an airplane, or, yeah, sure, it can go up in the air. I don't know. But I see this program growing here, and I think it's just awesome that we have somebody or a company or somebody behind us saying this is how you do this, lead us through the process to maybe a point sometime where we don't need that because we have people in place that already do that for us. So hats off to you guys. I think this is a really cool program.
Thank you. Dan did a nice job working on it.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you. 9.8 Superintendent Report, Dr. Grover.
Thank you, Madam President. I probably will take up a little bit of Dan Petch's time tonight since he's not here. I do have several items for you. First of all, I wanted to provide a staffing update for you, as I know that that has certainly been an item that you've been focused on. Right now, our remaining openings, we are at 14.5 positions left to be filled. I think that is a tremendous effort on behalf of our Human Resources Department, and also we're just really excited about all the people that have chosen Grand Island Public Schools as their place of employment. Just to kind of break that number down for you just a little bit, we actually have one opening at elementary. That's a first grade position at Howard. And so all of our other elementaries, that means that they're 100% staffed. So we're going to make sure we take care of Howard here pretty soon as well. So we talked about those 10 new positions, the SECA coaches, and so we weren't quite sure whether or not we would be able to staff those, but we knew we wanted to put that opportunity out for our elementary campuses. And right now we have filled 8 of those. And so, and all of those are from out of district. We did not have to pull anyone out of the classroom to fill those positions. So that is also tremendous as well. As we move into our middle schools, at Barr, we still have 2 openings. They're both science positions, one at the 7th grade and one in 8th grade. At Walnut, we have a 1 7th grade ELA. We do have it covered with a long-term substitute at this point. We're still going to advertise for it, but this is a solid person they have used in the past, and so we feel good about that. Westridge, they have an English language teacher, EL teacher, that they're hoping to fill. And at Grand Island Senior High School, we have 2.5 openings, 1 social studies position, 1 aviation position, and 1 science halftime position that we're looking to fill. And just to kind of round it out, we still have 5 special education openings. Of course, you know we tend to have special education openings throughout the year. But overall, the staffing that we're on par and, moving forward, we'll continue to strategize together to make sure that we have those highly qualified teachers in front of our students ready to go on the first day. I think I'll pause right there just to see if you have any questions on staffing. Okay, all right, wonderful. So then just maybe, summertime is filled with a lot of activity in terms of what's happening with our students, but also with our staff in regards to their professional learning. Do want to highlight for you that our GIPS team, they're at the GIPS conference in Washington, D.C. as we speak, and they haven't been able to go the last couple of years. They have not hosted the conference, but we have 4 students that are attending along with our GIPS director as well as a parent. And as we know, our GIPS program is really all about gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs. And so we're excited. This is all about that college talk and making sure that students are ready and prepared for college. And so they have 150 students from across the country, and so we're glad our students are able to participate, that they're able to talk about their experiences here in Grand Island, but also bring back ideas and suggestions from their peers as well. We're really excited that next week, Monday and Tuesday, we have our lead GIPS retreat. And of course, that brings together all of our district and building level staff. This is a 2-day event for us. On day 2, we would definitely be focusing in our area of culture and climate for our leadership, as well as district updates. But I'm really excited about day 1. Jennifer, she can kind of breathe a little bit at this point because we've been wanting to do this for the last couple of years, and we've finally been able to pull it off. But we are so proud of, as Mr. Giberson stated earlier, about this community and how we all kind of come together. So our leadership, we will be participating and giving back as part of the city's efforts with their comprehensive development plan. They have a little activity you can go around the community, give them feedback, and participate in their city development process. So all of our leaders, we're going to participate in. I think that's exciting. But the other part of it is we also have the opportunity to hear from other leaders within our community, and I think this is fascinating. We have leaders of large corporations here within our community, and we want to hear from them about how they engage their staff, how they work through their strategic goals. And so we have about 10 businesses we're going to divide up, and we're going to go and spend the lunch hour with them and let them impart some of their wisdom on us. And so it's been a great opportunity for us to kind of connect with our leadership across Grand Island. That includes anything from construction businesses, banks, nonprofits, etc. So just a variety of different companies, corporations across the community. Also, I just want to thank the Board of Education for those that participated in the middle school visioning process that we had this past week. We did get a little summary report from Creative Leadership Solutions. Of course, you know, that is the company that we were engaging in to kind of walk us through our process of thinking about our middle school programming. We always want to continue to evolve and make sure that our students are prepared to take full advantage of the opportunities that they have at the high school. With that being said, we have about 42 members on that team. Again, it is exciting. We have board members, we have administrators, we have teachers, we have social workers, but we have students and we have parents too, part of that discussion. So I just want to maybe highlight here in the report that was provided back to us from our consultants. They said perhaps everyone's favorite part of the 2 days was hearing from the students at the end of the day. The students were able to put forth their expectations, and just a couple of comments. They said, here are some sample statements from your amazing students. I deserve to have a healthy, safe learning environment where people understand me and I am well educated. My favorite part of middle school is relationships, getting to know people and teachers and new opportunities. I can count on being cared for, getting to talk to my friends, having people care for me, being safe and treated fairly. The adults in my life believe that I care for others, including them. I can reach my limits if I push myself. I can sometimes talk a lot, that I am capable of more than I know, and that I can become the best version of me. And so just to kind of let you know that the student's voice is important. The next steps in this process, we're going to be looking to develop a profile of the successful middle school student, and we will begin building questions and also putting that emphasis on college readiness and the aspects of middle school that can support those efforts. So thank you to Dr. Palmer and her team for leading the efforts around middle school, and more to come in an official update to the board. Maybe just one or two more updates since I'm talking about middle school. You know, we have our Jump Start program we started a few years ago to kind of get students acclimated to middle school. And so we're going to get started with that on July 26th and 27th at our middle schools. And that information is available for parents. So all incoming sixth graders, please make sure you register and sign up for our Jump Start 6 program. And just, if we haven't bragged on the high school enough tonight, I will give one last shout out here to our Future Business Leaders of America, the FBLA program. We have 5 of our Grand Island Senior High School students who traveled to Chicago to compete in the national FBLA convention 3 weeks ago. Their network design team, they made it to finals. And so this is just always a good opportunity for our students to compete at the national level, at the highest level, and they certainly represented Grand Island Public Schools as well as Grand Island Senior High School with great pride, intellect, skill, and ability. So I believe that concludes my report. for tonight, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Grover. 10 action items. 10.1, additions to extra standard schedule for 2022-2023. Ms. Irie?
It says Miss Irie on there.
I apologize, this was supposed to be Dr. Dexter, and we did not coordinate on this.
Oh, did we not have this last month?
I don't know.
This one is, she presented earlier. You might want to say what it is.
Oh, what do I want to, what do you mean?
This is just approving the extra, approving the extra standards.
Presented on last month.
Yes, it had been presented for information. I apologize, I was a little panicked for a minute, wait a minute. But yes, this is just approving the extra standard salary schedule based on being presented previously, and a committee was formed that went through this in detail and in depth many times. So are there any questions that I can answer? We're requesting this for motion to approve it as presented.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the extra standard schedule as presented.
Mr. Barsonas and Mr. Brown, any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irie. 10.2, proposal for secondary pass program. Mr. Bishop? I don't think you'll be up here as long this time.
Any additional questions on the PASS program or anything that I can clarify?
I make a motion to approve the secondary pass program as presented.
Mr. Barsonas and Ms. Wolf, any discussion? Please vote. What, did you have something, Bonnie? Okay. Okay, no discussion, go ahead and vote. Motion passes. Thank you. 10.3, 2022-2023 school year student transportation services. Dr. Schroeder.
Holiday Express is the student transportation contracted provider for Grand Island Public Schools. A 5-year contract for services was entered between Grand Island Public Schools and Holiday Express on June 10, 2021. A copy of that service contract is attached for review by the board. The proposed transportation routes for the 22-23 school year and the corresponding fees for providing those routes are attached to this agenda item for review and consideration by the board. Please note the current schedule provides for 165 days of students' transportation. Should the number of days transportation services provided to Grand Island Public Schools be adjusted upward or downward from 165, the service agreement payment will be adjusted accordingly based on the daily rate for each route. Are there any questions regarding the service contract with Holiday Express or the routes that are delineated that I can answer for you?
Thank you, Dr. Schroeder.
Make a motion to approve the 2022-23 school year school transportation schedule and corresponding cost as presented.
Mr. Barsonas and Mr. Brown, any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. .4 Tango Flight MOU. Mr. Wickman.
Are there any further questions for me on that presentation from this earlier?
Motion to approve the Tango Flight MOU as presented.
Mr. Barsonas and Dr. Burrows, please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. 10.5, adding FTE to 2022-2023 school year. Ms. Irie.
We're requesting a motion to approve the additional FTE for the full-time business manager with an 80 to 100 base salary. Are there any questions I can answer?
I make a motion to approve additional FTE as presented.
Mr. Barsness and Mr. Brown, any discussion? Please vote.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. 11, reports. 11.1, Grand Island Public Schools Foundation Report. Mrs. Juergens.
I have no foundation report for the month of July.
11.2, NASB Monthly Update. We usually get an email about those. You can get on the website as well. 12, executive session for the purpose of administrative compensation increase for 2022-2023 school year, classified compensation increase for 2022-2023 school year, and legal counsel consultation because it is in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session.
I make a recommendation for the board to convene to executive session for the purpose of discussing administrative compensation increase for the 2022-2023 and classified compensation increase for 2022-2023 fiscal year as presented.
Mr. Parsons, Mr. Brown, please vote. Oh. 13, reconvene from executive session.
I'll make a motion that we reconvene from executive session.
Mrs. Hinkle and Mr. Brown? Was that Mr. Brown? Okay. Discussion? Please vote. Okay, yes. No. Okay, so that motion passes. Oh, did we vote? We did. Okay, I missed it. It went fast. Yeah. 14, approval of any action deemed necessary as a result of executive session. So we need a motion. So then I go to 15. Can you just use this? You want to just say, use this same wording?
Make a motion to approve a 3% increase for Gicsa as presented.
Do I have a second? So Mr. Barson, I'm sorry, what?
For the 2022-23 school year.
Yeah. It's getting a little messy. Do we need to start over? Okay.
On 15? Got it, okay.
Okay, okay, so Mr. Barsonis and Mr. Hawley, any discussion? No? Okay, go ahead and vote. Motion passes. All right, and then 16, classified staff compensation for 2022-2023 school year.
Make a motion to approve a 3.2% total compensation increase for the classified staff for the 2022-2023 school year.
Mr. Barsonis and Mr. Brown, please vote. Motion passes. And 17, notification of upcoming board meetings. Our next meeting is Thursday, August 11th at 5:30 p.m. 18, adjourned.